Hello, everyone. My name is Danielle Blunt. I am a professional dominatrix with over 15 years in the industry. I work primarily out of New York and sell content across the interwebs when I am able to. And I am joined today by Ms. Kim, and I would love if you could introduce yourself.
I am also a professional dominatrix. I am also an educator. I categorize myself as like mostly online, an online sex worker, although I do personal, like in-person sessions as well. And I put together classes for other sex workers and provide those online. Yeah, and I go by she, her. Also, I'm a mom.
Amazing. So powerful. I love seeing your business hustle and having the family and doing so much.
Yeah, it's a lot. I actually I get kind of regular questions from kind of all over the internet because there are so many these different platforms in terms of social media will reach out to a lot of different kinds of people. Mostly they're male, but then once in a while, a lot of women will message me and write me and say like, how do you get into this business? I want to do it. And then recently I just had someone message me and say, is there a market for bored housewives who want to do this as a side hustle? And I was like, well, maybe there is, but it's like so much more work than you think it is.
Want actually work, or do you?
Yeah, exactly. When you say bored housewives, it's like it's not like going to yoga, It's not like you're going to a Pilates class and you're putting in the work, and then all of a sudden you just end up with a pile of cash.
I know. I think there's something I think about this all the time of like the branding of financial domination of like, I'm just hot and mean and I'm just paid to exist. And like, I'm going to get my Pilates class reimbursed 3 times. But like, there's so much branding that goes into that. And there's so much like world building and construction to be able to manifest that. And then I feel like there is like the bored housewife who's like, oh, like I do Pilates, like someone could be paying me for that. That sounds so titillating. Instead of like seeing it as like this like multi-year career of getting to that in your brand where your brand is so strong that you're that Pilates bitch that like is getting her green juice reimbursed like 70-fold,
Yeah, there's a lot going on with the way that we show ourselves in, it's a persona, right? I try to be as authentic as I can be, but ultimately whatever it is that I'm putting online, especially social media, is a show. It's meant to titillate, it's meant to entertain, and it's meant to project a certain kind of look and lifestyle and branding. And so it's so easy for others to think, like that looks really fun and easy, and don't realize, the unbelievable amount of work and like discipline and business sense and acumen that it takes to make something like this successful.
So easy.
Yeah, so that's the thing, right? It's like anything else. It's like if you watch an actor work and like the final product is them doing their 5-minute speech, and you're just like that sound, or a comedian is like a great example where they're doing a show And it really does, the good ones really does make it sound like they're just thinking about something and it just comes out of their mouth, not realizing that it took years of rehearsing, months of memorizing, redoing, rehashing, you know. I don't think my work is crafted as that, but the images are. I think the images and like the some of the video stuff is really crafted, and it's a show.
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like sometimes I get frustrated that like the payback for crafting something like that exquisitely is not so high in sex work. Like I have a few videos that my background's
Yeah.
in videography and I have like a few videos where I'm like, I'm making this like just for me. Like I'm making like the erotica that I want to see. And like I have like had a patron who has like funded the specific project and know that
Mm.
like selling it is not going to be how I make money. And like maybe it will be a like web for someone to fall into who like becomes a whale that I can like catch and like milk and like dive really deeply with, but it's just, you know, like spending like 5 days on production and like X amount of days editing is just never going to be what sells,
Oh
what you make
God.
your money on do in a
Oh
femdom.
yeah. I mean, the ultimately it's it's like the creative parts of ourselves uh get kind of buried and ruined. So it's really wonderful to see when people do those creative things. I think there's a real place for it in the world. And I'm still very positive about that because I think ultimately it's still, if we're talking about it going towards your business, it still helps. But it still helps because not everything can just be the same thing all the time. So first of all, variety helps. But the second thing is, you know, the having the want of making something beautiful and putting it out there. That's no small feat, right? Like it takes so much time and so much effort, of course, money to, you know, hire people and you know, editing and production and all that stuff. So I love seeing when people put out truly like creative and good for the soul projects, even especially when it's not meant to like to directly get money, you know, to make money. Yeah, it's I guess it's like putting beauty into the world is never a bad idea.
I love that. I feel like beauty is so important and so related to my interest in femdom is like this like hedonistic impulse to constantly like have beauty make beauty
Mhm.
like moving towards my pleasure. And I think the relationship for art for me is definitely very related, and having an arts background,
Mhm.
it like, and then just like the selfies doing better than like a self-portrait that I'm like setting up, or like this like very flat lit video, and just like it not mattering in sales
Oh god.
what effort I put in. It's been really fun to like be like, okay, well, like this is the thing that I want, so I'm gonna make you all watch it whether or not it's what you're into.
Yeah, and you know, that is the kind of like, so two things. One, I was just thinking about as you're talking, that is the trap of branding. Like it's hard to put out things that are different than what you know, like if you're looking at a particular account that is meant to market a certain thing, and then you veer away from that particular thing and put out something else, it's just confusing. I think it's, so that's in a sense already, that's already difficult. But the second thing about yeah, putting beauty out into the world is that men have such dumb tiny brains. So it's not complicated. It's like the ones who might be artistically inclined, or the ones who are, more on your wavelength might see that and really appreciate it. But the ones who are there for the porn and for the smut, they're not going to get that, and that's fine. But it's hard not to it's hard not to put your own like value into your worth, into like how many people have liked this, or how many people have commented, or all of those things. That's I think the really difficult part of being a creative person and making things that aren't exactly creative. It's more for just titillation and money. Yeah, that's a really difficult thing for sure.
I like what you said about like the construction of a brand and like some of the risks of like putting things outside there. I'm wondering what it's been like for you creating your brand. Because I know you've also been in the industry for a while, and like what has that been like for you as a very like business minded person? And like
Gosh, yeah. I kind of constantly struggle. I don't really ultimately, I guess my brand really is like kind of, you know, what's the right words to describe what my brand even is? I'd say upper middle class, like Asian dom. Like I don't.
you have like very like educatrix vibes in there too, and like some like mommy sternness in that
Yeah.
in the brand. I definitely think there's like I think like I get the vibe like you're gonna teach me something. If I like book a session with you, like I'm definitely gonna like come out with more knowledge than before.
Yeah. And that's good and bad. Some people don't want to learn anything. Some people just some people don't want to they don't want to be taught. They don't want to like have a lesson. They just want to be told what to do, and then that's it. Yeah, the education thing I think is also kind of confusing for the brand, but I simply cannot I don't have the time to separate those two right now, so I kind of put everything together. The smarter thing that I could have done was start a different account. We're talking about Twitter and IG, for only education for sex workers, as opposed to putting it all on at the same place, because people who are coming to see my smut is not going to be the same people who take my classes, right?
To like I accidentally started organizing under my sex worker name, and I often really regret it, but then I also get clients who are just like really like down and really like-minded and like interested in having like interesting complicated conversations with me if they don't agree. And so I like am constantly like I feel like I've gained a lot of like depth in my relationships from doing my organizing under the same name I do sex work with, but I also feel like I've lost that like more like mass market appeal of like I am like a tabula rasa. You can like project all of your fantasies on me, like who you like, I vote for who you vote for. Like I just can't do it.
Yeah.
I wonder too if you've noticed that for you, you have like clients who like aren't necessarily like going to the classes you're putting on for sex workers, but that's something that they appreciate about you.
There are. I think the ones who, at least from what I've noticed, is that the people who really support me and the education that I do, they tend to see themselves as, kind of like very, they see themselves as champions, and and supporters of sex workers, which is great. That's absolutely what I want. And there aren't enough of them. I could like count on one hand the people. When I put out classes, I will say, if you want to support other sex workers, you can simply pay me for the classes, and I will just give out some of these classes to those who ask. And I can count on one hand the number of people who come to me, maybe 4 or 5, who will say, like, I want to do this for others. And I really appreciate those people. I really do. They are, and they're correct. I mean, they are, through that kind of support, I can tell that they're the kind of people who at least want to see themselves as being less selfish and more service, oriented. And I appreciate that. But the vast majority of people just don't care. So that's fine too. It's not for them.